welcome back to the channel built by Ben. I'm sitting on this MDF here, which we're just about to turn into a drinks cabinet for a lucky customer. He's commissioned me to build this drinks cabinet. It's going to be a bit of a special one, and I've brought you along for the journey. If you've got any questions at all, just leave it in the comments. Hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, like them, subscribe to the channel, tell your mates about it. Nice one.
And here it is, the next little project. Nice little drinks cabinet. Hopefully this is going to be the glass worktop. We're just waiting to hear back from the customer on that one. Normal sort of cupboards with shelves down here with doors on. We've got an antique mirror, or possibly a black mirror, going in the back there. LED lights around the mirror, and then we've got two bookcases here and a wine rack at the top. So we're going to get to building this, and you guys can join me. Well, thanks for joining us again on this week's episode. We're building this drinks cabinet. I'm just going to fast forward this bit. This is just building the carcasses for the bottom units, and I've already got an explanation video on doing this. One of the first ones I ever put on my channel. It goes through all of the measurements and all of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're building these carcasses. Still nice to see the process on this one for this drinks unit, and I just wanted to show you here quickly how I bench the MDF sheets. If you do work by yourself, it's important that you get this right, but if you sort of get that down 1/3 below the bench and then flap it on, it takes pretty much all of the weight out of it. I thought that might be handy for some people if you do this sort of stuff on your own. But again, we're using a Festool track saw. Doesn't let me down, that thing. Really does cut nicely. I do change the blade in it for every job I do. Sometimes twice if there's loads of cutting to do. So yeah, just keep that nice and sharp. And it actually does quite a nice job of almost compressing the edges as well, so you don't have to prep them too much before painting. You can just go over with a fine grit sandpaper. But you can see here, after I've cut the components, we're just drilling through. That's actually the side piece there, not the back piece. We're drilling through the side piece. I just like to give it a little sand so that if there's any little burst outs from where we drilled it, then they get taken off so that the panel still sits nice and flat. And again, using 2 bits of MDF under the back there just to create a 36mm void. Works well for getting plugs down there, etc. We're going to be hiding quite a lot of wires down the back of this one, so it's worth doing that again. And then we're just screwing these carcasses together, or the side pieces anyway, screwing them together with a 60mm Spax MDF screw. They're great little things. They're quite thin gauge, so they don't sort of burst the MDF apart as you go in, which some of the bigger screws do, even if you pre-drill them. But they're a really good hold as well. And then we're just going around the sides and the back there with some glue before we put these back panels on. And before we do that, we just go around with the pocket screw jig there. Again, that's on one of my earlier videos. I'll put these in the top corners for you as I say them, and then if you want to have a click on them the second time through the video, then you can find out how to do all of these individual bits. This one was more so you can see the process of this drinks cabinet and how it all fits together. Now the channel's gone a bit crazy again just recently. I had one of my older videos start to pick up quite a lot of views in the last week. I think it's up to about 90,000 views at the moment, my boxing in video, so if you haven't seen that yet, go and give that a little look as well. Another thing that you guys could do for me to help support the channel is get over to my Instagram and follow over there. That helps me be seen by a lot of sponsors, tool manufacturers, etc, etc. All these things just contribute to me getting something back from YouTube to pay for me to edit these videos. The more I get paid, I'm just going to reinvest it into the videos. So the more you guys support me, I can make better videos for you to watch. So we're all a winner. These videos do take quite a long time to put together, so I do appreciate the support. Even if you just comment in and give me some little tips, or just saying that you enjoyed it, means a lot my end. But yeah, just want to thank you guys for tuning in every week, and all of the new guys that are just finding this channel as well. Thanks for your support. I get a lot of nice comments on this channel at the moment, so you know, it's also good for me to know I'm doing a good job. So you can see we're just fixing the top part of the carcass here with the pocket screws. Nice little top tip with these pocket screws. I'll try and film it closer on a future video, but when you put a pocket screw in, because if it's slight angle, it will pull towards whatever you're drilling just by about half a millimetre. So if you just slightly overlap it back from where you want it to end up before you start screwing it, then once it's screwed, it would actually pull the material flush. That's a nice little tip that. I don't think, you know, you can just clamp them as well. There's no issue with that. But with this sort of unit, it's very hard to actually clamp the bottom and stop that from moving. So another thing you can do is just go through the sides with the spack screws like I am here, but you just got to make sure that they can't be seen, obviously. So you've either got to be filling all of them holes afterwards, or just making sure it's a part of the unit that is you know, not exposed to the eye. So we're just using a wet rag there just to get off the excess PVA. You want to make sure you do that with MDF, because otherwise it leaves like a PVA film over it. It becomes very hard to paint. Some PVA is paintable, but not the stuff that I use. The paint just sort of deters off of it, like as if it was sort of oil, if you're with me. But yeah, you saw me there just give it a light sand over on the face. I think that's very important when you're making these units. Paying attention to the corners where the material meets there. Just going over it with a sander and just making sure that that whole face is nice and smooth. And I usually do this with like a 240 or a 320 grit sandpaper. Really is a good way of doing it. And we move on to the legs here. I come up with this little way to actually shorten the legs, because I only wanted this to sit about, I think it was 80mm off of the floor. I didn't want much of a plinth. Just to keep it a bit more sleek looking. We haven't got to get access to the underneath. It was more just for levelling purposes, because the floor was quite out on this job. So yeah, if you want to do that, then use these standard kitchen feet, which you can get from Screwfix, and just make sure that you cut the hollow end off of the leg to leave the screwed end on there, obviously, so that you've still got your adjustment. You can see we're just putting one in each corner of these units. And then what I like to do with these units is then put another one in the middle as well, so that stops any sag in the future. You never know what customers are going to load these things up with, and if they put loads of heavy stuff in the middle there, that will eventually take that bottom piece down. So yeah, I like to get that central one in there, just to keep that front end up. The back's not too bad, because obviously you've screwed in from the back, and that's supporting that material for you. So you can see there I've just got the carcasses with the doors on. If you want to see how to put the doors on, that's a separate video that I posted last week, so feel free to flick over there, have a little look at that one. I thought that deserved its own video, because it's quite an important part of cabinetry. And you can see here that building the tower units is just exactly the same as these bottom carcasses. And again, I've got a full tutorial right at the beginning of my YouTube days. I did that one, put that one together, and the tower units have got their own episode, so that'll teach you how to do them. And on this one, because I'm having a glass worktop on this drinks unit, I decided to keep the tower units bottomless so that it didn't cover too much of it up. Obviously the customer's paying a lot for a glass worktop, so we didn't want to cover it all up with the bottom of these units, just a bit of painted MDF. So you'll see what I mean by that in one of the later episodes. When I come to fitting this unit, I'm going to show you guys how it's fitted on site and what the end product looks like, so that you can see the whole process of it. So I didn't want to go too mad on this week's episode. I was a bit sort of unsure of how to edit this little series. I was going to get the full build all in one episode, but I found that I was fast forwarding way too much of it, and it wasn't actually showing too much about what I was doing, so I decided to split it up into a couple of little episodes. Next week's episode will be the wine rack that then fits in between the two tower units. That's quite an interesting one, so make sure you tune in for that if you've ever got to build one of these. And then the third and final episode will be the fitting of it on site. So I think we'll just leave this one here for this week. Sorry if you wanted to see a bit more, but I'll get the other one out as quick as possible, and hopefully you'll join me for that, and I'll see you on the channel next week. Thanks for tuning in.